Oscar Gonzalez leads off the bottom of the 15th. The right-hander's pitch. Sends the Guardians to the division series. A mob scene at home plate.
Well, we welcome you on into another episode of the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. It's Mitch Spinell and Mitchell Balla here to give you the latest on the world of sports on all the levels. Mitch, it's good to be back here, and we're going to have the best and the probably maybe worst, hopefully the worst of this season for between two particular teams. And you know, it's been a very eventful weekend here in Northeast Ohio, and we'll get to many of the sports here in just a little bit. But how are you doing, man? I usually ask you this mainly because I guess I'm not that caring of a person, but I should start doing that. How have you been, man? I mean, how was your weekend with all these things going on?
No, you are a caring person, Mitch. People don't see how you ask how I'm doing in the text messages. Okay, that's okay. Weekend wise, though, phenomenal. I mean, listen, postseason baseball is back. I love postseason baseball. It's even better, or can be worse when your own team's in it. And I think my heart rate was probably at an all-time high on Friday and Saturday, watching our Guardians, which we're going to get into here. And then, yesterday with the Browns did what the Browns do and choked it away and played bad football. But we'll talk about that later. But Mitch, I'll just tell you right now, I'll get it out there. The Browns are dead to me. The Guards are in the playoffs, and let's get going with them.
Yards in the playoffs, Cavs season starting soon. You're not even focused on football in the city at this point.
So except for the Buckeyes. I'm focused about that.
That's true. I'll give you that because they did win against Michigan State this past Saturday. And we should also get to that too later on in the show now that I think about it. But as of now, before we get into our first topic, I want to remind you guys that we are on multiple streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud. Also here on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. And, you can follow us on BigTimeSportsOhio.com. That's where you can find articles and videos, many things, including our schedule for these coming games here in the season. And, at BTS Ohio on Twitter and on Facebook, at Mitch Spinell, at Mitchell Balla, BALLASPINELL. So, Mitch, we are officially done with the wild card series. This is the first ever wild card round best of 3 in Major League Baseball's history. And it was an interesting one at that because we only had the best of 3 actually go best of 3, but we'll get to that in a little bit. The one that wasn't best of 3, and thankfully it was on our side for this one, the Cleveland Guardians are officially in the traditional postseason after sweeping the Tampa Bay Rays on Saturday, I believe, or was it Friday, Saturday, or Saturday? Yep. It was Friday, Saturday. Friday was a 2-1 victory that saw Jose Ramirez prove he was worth every bit of that contract extension earlier on in the season. And then kind of the same thing on Saturday, because it's so funny. We went from such a quick game on Friday where it was like under 3 hours. We were done by in the afternoon. It was kind of interesting, even though I do think the scheduling kind of was up in the air as to whether people actually liked it or not. And then Saturday, over 5 hours of playoff baseball in a game where 1 run was scored on the Oscar Gonzalez walk-off home run.
This is a quote that a lot of people know. How can you not be romantic about baseball? Let's just start with Friday. A 2-1 win over the Rays in game 1. Shane Bieber dazzling. It was actually the battle of the Shanes. Shane McClanahan for the Rays, Shane Bieber for the Guards. And Bieber blinked first. He gave up that home run to the number 9 hitter, Siri, for the Rays, which, by the way, Mitch, was a shot. I mean, it got out of the state or out of the park in a heartbeat. I was at game 1 on Friday afternoon with my dad and a good friend of mine, and that place was electric. I know the stands didn't look full when they were showing it, but let's keep in mind, people, it was a 12:05 start on a Friday. Yep. The game time was announced less than 48 hours before first pitch.
Yep.
By the 4th or 5th inning, that place was as packed as expected. I believe the attendance was almost 31,000. So about 4,000 short, but Mitch, that's probably the biggest crowd they had all year. And that place, when Jose Ramirez came up and he came through once again for the Cleveland Guardians, the place was shaking. I mean, you could feel the stadium shaking. It was amazing. The atmosphere was great. And that's when you really got to see what we as Guardian fans have known all year. The pitching has been lights out.
Yes.
Bieber, and then Clase getting a 4-out save, which Mitch, I was nervous. It was the first time he had done that. He came in and did it. And then you move on to Saturday. Saturday, I was at a golf outing for a team I coach. It was a fundraiser. As soon as it hit 12 o'clock, I made sure that my phone was charged, my speaker in the golf cart was charged, and I had Tom Hamilton on that speaker. We ended. Actually, my last hole was when the guards had the bases loaded with nobody out in the sixth, and you had your hitters up. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is it. Jose is going to come through, and he didn't. And I thought Naylor, probably the most clutch player we've had all year in terms of when you want that guy up. And he grounds into double play. And my heart dropped. I thought, don't tell me this is how it's going to be, because you lose this game after that type of opportunity. Odds are that might be something you can't recover from. Well, the Guardians did what we've seen them do all year, and the pitching was lights out. McKenzie, phenomenal. And he turned it over to the bullpen. Just, you can't say enough. I know I've been hard on Eli Morgan. He made me eat my words when it mattered the most. I mean, even De Los Santos, he came in. I thought, oh man, this could be a tough spot for him. Nick Sandlin comes in. Trevor Stephan was great per usual. Karen Check, Clase. It was just a phenomenal baseball game. And to see the way they win that game, Mitch, we talked about it last week. This team isn't a team that's going to hit home runs to win games, yet they've won both games by hitting home runs. Literally, they scored 3 runs, and all the runs have scored via the home run ball, 2-run shot from Jose, solo shot from Oscar Gonzalez. And this team, in a big moment, granted it took 15 innings, came through when they needed to. It was one of the kids in Oscar Gonzalez, and I can't say enough about this so far. I am beyond excited to move on to the next round. I'm ready to play the Yankees. I told you that before we even advanced, that I think this team can beat the New York Yankees. I thought the Rays would beat the New York Yankees. So I'm ready, but I need to know how you're feeling. I didn't know where you were and what your overall emotion was, especially in that 6th inning of game 2.
Well, first of all, I definitely thought the Rays could beat the New York Yankees. In fact, I thought they might even be a more sizable matchup against New York because they're such a formidable division opponent. That being said, this team, it's so funny. Like you said, they lived and died pretty much the whole year on producing runs, singles, bunts, fundamental baseball, stealing bases, and then all your runs in that series come down to home runs in a sense where, that game, especially that game 2, where it seemed like nobody could piece together 2 hits consecutively. And then you saw what happened in the 6th, and I thought, oh, the blood's dripping in the water. The Sharks are coming up. We've got this. And then Jose strikes out. Okay, you get Naylor in there. And I'll give credit to Jason Adam, who had to come in for Fairbanks. That was a strange thing, by the way. Was the whole thing with his hand, was like something was wrong with his hand, or was it?
Yeah.
There were some people that were claiming, oh, he was nervous or something
Well,
that.
The whole thing behind that, Mitch, is the MLB put in that rule a couple years ago where it's now a 3-batter minimum, because a lot of people, baseball takes forever because you do matchups, this, that, whatever. And of course, he came in. He had walked 3 batters all year, all season long. He walked 3 batters, and he walks the first 2 guys he faces. And then, of course, he looks the dugout, calls out the trainer, says something was wrong with his fingers, control. Goes to show you that guys that aren't familiar with the postseason baseball atmosphere, when on the mound, it can get to him. Whether the Rays did that on purpose because he was nervous or he was actually hurt, we will never know. Their season's over. They don't have to put anybody on the injured list. But there was the conspiracy of the Rays faked an injury to get him out of the game.
I mean, it's such a great postseason win for Cleveland at a series where it could have gone easily either way, could have easily gone differently had Jose Ramirez not just made the most unbelievable fielding play at third base. Was Naylor's foot on the bag?
It was on the base. It really was. And, I think that the Rays may have been desperate at that point. First off, I think both teams were desperate.
Yeah.
You go that long into a game, into what I think the play was in the 12th or the 13th that Jose made.
Yes.
The Rays first base coach acted like that, and maybe he thought it was off the base. The bottom of Naylor's cleats were white. Maybe he did not see him on the base, but Naylor's foot was on that base. You could see. And first off, this is very, very small, but nobody talks about it enough. Your first baseman is a guy who we weren't sure what was going to happen after last year when he had that major and unfortunate collision in shallow right field in Minnesota. The leg he broke is the leg he puts on the base to stretch with. And Josh Naylor did the splits multiple times in that series. But that game-saving play right there. So yes, Jose made a phenomenal play. There's only a select number of third basemen in baseball really only two that come to mind that I know can make that play, and that's Nolan Arenado and Manny Machado. But Josh Naylor with that stretch and keeping that toe on the base was just as big as Jose fielding and throwing that ball across the diamond.
And having to scoop that ball up. I mean, Naylor's not the strongest fielder that the Guardians have, but many times this year he's been able to come up in some surprising ways. So I'm really happy that he got to complete that. And then I was in a public setting when Oscar hits the home run, and I'm just watching it on my phone right there next to my buddy, and I'm getting excited when I see that ball, because I didn't process it at first. I'm like, oh, okay, it's just going to be another 1-2-3 inning, and then you see the camera kind of zoom outwards into the outfield, and you're thinking, oh, and there it is. And then all the people were celebrating after that, and it's just such a great time for Cleveland baseball. And now you go into this matchup with the Yankees where 3 runs is not going to cut it. 3 runs is not going to cut multiple games against this team. You're probably going to have either Cal Quantrill or Aaron Savali taking the hill for game 1 coming up here in the Bronx. So this is going to be a test, I think, especially for the bottom half of the pitching rotation, which already isn't very experienced to begin with in the postseason. But
they're entering a tricky spot here, Mitch. I do think game 1's going to be Cal Quantrill, and for those saying, well, how you mentioned Savali, how could it be Savali? Every time you win a postseason round, you have the option to move players up and down on a playoff roster, which we're going to see somebody added now with Nick Sandlin out. We just got news. Nick Sandlin, the reliever for the Guardians, will be out with a shoulder injury. He left the 15-inning game with an injury. Quantrill would have started game 3. It would probably be the best to start him game 1, and I have confidence in him. This is where it gets tricky, though, because you're probably going to add Savali as your 4th pitcher. And are you really going to give him over almost 2 weeks off if you don't pitch him in game 2? Because that will be enough rest for Shane Bieber to come back and pitch game 2. Tristan McKenzie then could go game 3, which is in Cleveland. And I don't put too much into that, Mitch, because I think at the end of the day, you have to put your best pitchers on the mound. And I'm all for Bieber getting a full 5 days rest, putting him on game 2 rather than a day short of rest, putting him in game 1. Well, I trust Tito. Let me put it that way. I trust Terry Francona, who's been through this multiple times. He knows what he's doing. He did it years ago with Trevor Bauer, and all of us were like, Bauer game 1 over Kluber, what? Yeah. And it worked out in our favor. I do think it'll be Quantrill, Bieber, McKenzie games 1, 2, and 3. But early reaction, Mitch, how you feel? Do you think they can do it? Because I told you on our last episode that people can go back and listen to on whatever platform they're watching or listening to us right now. I was taking the winner of this series over the Yankees, and I'm sticking to that. And I feel very good. I want the primetime game. I want the big spot. This is a team that I think woke up with the whole New York Yankee incident earlier in the season, where fans threw, trash at our outfielders. At the time it was Mercado, Straw, and Kwan. I think Tuesday night is going to be a ruckus atmosphere in New York, but I'm all for it. I'm ready, and I'm confident in the Guards.
Miles Straw is going to get a welcoming.
He is
reckoning for a welcome, I should say. I don't know. This team can beat them, especially if the pitching can really stand out. But if they are just kind of even at a B level, then I think the Yankees are going to put up enough runs to where their pitchers. I know people have their things about Garrett Cole and how he's performed in the playoffs before, but he's still a quality pitcher. And if the Guardians can take advantage of a bullpen that I don't think is as strong as the starters for the Yankees, then we could see some very close games come down to the wire. And the Yankees even allowing pitchers like Aroldis Chapman to stay off the roster for this coming series, obviously based on his own doing, but also it's like, hey, we can let this guy not play. I mean, our bullpen, if Aaron Boone sees his bullpen is good to go, then that's the way he sees it.
I personally, as an outsider, I personally like facing Aroldis Chapman. It just makes me, I tend to think the Guards, or at the time the Indians, were in his head. But I give props to Aaron Boone. Aroldis Chapman just decided not to show up to a workout, or showed up very late on a day he was supposed to throw a bullpen. And when he did arrive, the excuse was not acceptable. And not only did the Yankees leave him off the roster, Mitch, they sent him back home to Miami. And Boone said that the Yankees front office and him are looking into further disciplinary actions. And this is a guy who this year really was not the Aroldis Chapman we've seen for his entire career. So the plus, though, is he's left-handed, Mitch. And that's one less left-handed reliever that the Yankees are going to be able to throw against the Guards. As we know, I think the Guards struggle with left-handed pitching. But I would say that's an advantage guards, but also maybe an advantage Yankees, because I just don't think anybody on that Yankee team roster or coaching staff had as much faith in Aroldis Chapman as maybe other years.
So the question is for you, the listeners, who's going to win this upcoming series? Yes, I know I have both of these hats. I have more hats than I care to admit. I mean, I have more hats of other teams that don't make a lot of sense. I got this whole bag right here somewhere around me. But in the meantime, we're going to take a quick break. We'll get into some more of the baseball playoffs in the next segment. And then I think we'll get into the NFL later on, also high school sports as well. A great week 8. We had a heck of a matchup in Uriksville this past week. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this.
When others treat your fries as an afterthought, all you're left with are cold, soggy fries. That's why Wendy's new fries are ones you won't forget, guaranteed to be hot and crispy, or we'll replace them. We're talking natural cut, skin-on fries, perfectly seasoned with a hint of sea salt. In fact, they're even preferred almost 2-to-1 over McDonald's. These are fries so hot and crispy, they beg a new question.
What would you like with your fries?
Try them today, only at Wendy's.
At participating U.S. Wendy's, taste preference based on a national taste test by an independent research company.
Buying a home has never been so affordable with record low interest rates. Hartzler's Quality Housing is ready to put over 40 years of experience to work for you. Family owned and operated since 1978, Hartzler's has a wide selection of model homes on site with a knowledgeable team to help make your new home a reality. Open 6 days a week. Visit them off I-77 in Dover or online at hartzlers.com. Hartzler's Quality Housing. Quality from start to finish.
You deserve the best. And at Ferris Chevrolet, Buick, Cadillac, Toyota, that's what you get. We consider you, the customer, to be part of our family. Anybody can make promises, but when you visit Ferris, you get the Ferris deal from a Ferris wheel. So if you're looking for a car, truck, or van, think Ferris. Think Ferris.
You invest a lot in your home and vehicle purchases. Van Nostrand Young and Associates want you to feel secure should anything happen to those investments. We partnered with providers like Grange Insurance and other industry leaders to be sure you're presented with the most complete coverage to fit your needs. Because we're not only here to protect the items you invest in, we're here to protect your future as well.
Call Van Nostrand Young Insurance in North Canton at 330-497.
We all have 206 things in common. Our bones keep us up and moving. And we at Cleveland Clinic Union Hospital care about every single one of them. From the tip of your finger to a brand new hip, our orthopedic experts will keep you going while keeping you safe. For every break and breakthrough, for every bone and joint, for every care in the world. Get the care you need when and where you need it. Visit unionhospital.org.
And we welcome you back here to the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. Mitch Spinella and Mitchell Balla here. Time to talk more about the baseball playoffs, obviously with the Guardians moving on to the division series up against the New York Yankees. So I'm looking at the predictions we had here for the playoffs, and I'm looking at the wild card round specifically. I don't know if I can see it at any point right around there. But Mitch, you got 2 series right. And I got 2 series right. You got the American League correct. You picked the Guardians and the Mariners to end up winning their series, but you got the National League wrong. Both the Mets and the Cardinals are no longer in contention. I mean, I told you Philadelphia would somehow pull out that victory, especially even with a 9th inning comeback like they had in game 1.
Yep.
That was just an all-timer meltdown by the bullpen for the Redbirds, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not happy with my picks. I still thought the Mets would dispatch the Padres, and now I'm wrong. So that's the one. That's the one that didn't go to that went to 3 games. By the way, the one that went the full way.
Yeah, and what's really cool now, Mitch, is that you have 2 series now, or 1 series, excuse me, out of the 2 in each league, where it's a divisional matchup in the American League Division Series and the National League Division Series. You now have the Mariners versus the Astros, and you now have the Padres versus the Dodgers. Yes, you were right. I was completely wrong. And that was an epic collapse in terms of the National League wild card round, really game 1 of the National League on Friday. Cardinals had a pinch hit 2-run homer in the 7th inning by a rookie, I believe.
Yeah.
And Cardinals go up 2-0. I felt great. And then the Cardinals had the absolute classic meltdown, 6 runs in the top of the 9th. And Mitch, It just goes to show you some of the balls put in play by the Phillies weren't hard hit balls.
No.
Bloop single, weak single through the right side of the infield, a hit batter. It doesn't take home runs and line drives and gap shots to get your team going. Does it help? Absolutely. But postseason baseball is a brand new season. You throw everything out the window. And you saw that the other night with the New York Mets too. You saw the New York Mets throw out their 1-2, which arguably Mets on paper and by name is the best 1-2 punch in all of baseball with Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom. Max Scherzer got rocked. 4 home runs given up to the Padres. Mets go down 0-1. They come back with Jacob deGrom. Finally score some runs for Jacob deGrom. And then game 3, you once again throw everything out the window. It was basically a game 7, which we always say is the best 2 words in all of sports. And the Padres shut down the New York Mets, Mitch. And I'm not surprised. I know it's the Mets are going to do what the Mets do, but realistically, Mitch, they choked away their opportunity to be in this next series all the way back in August with a 10.5 game lead in the NL East. The Atlanta Braves came firing back. They sweep the Mets in a decisive series, the second to last series of the year. And that's why the New York Mets are going home now.
Really quick, did you say that there were 2 in-division wild cards or division round series?
There's 3 now that I think about it, because I was still thinking the Cardinals won. Yep.
No, it's okay. I mean, yeah, because I was thinking that, and that's an interesting one too, because Atlanta hasn't been. I mean, they have been very strong in the last month or so, but they weren't for the majority of the year. And then if the Phillies can put some together, we might have underestimated them. Right now, I do see the 3 underestimated teams as Philadelphia, Seattle, and of course Cleveland, because those are probably the 3 ones where nobody's really given them much to work with, and neither should they, because a lot of these teams have better records. They have bigger stars. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a better team, but it helps. Now you have a Dodgers team that I could see San Diego making a run at them, but I still think they would easily dispatch maybe in like 4 games or so. Atlanta and Philadelphia, I think, is going to be the closest series. I don't know about Houston and Seattle. I feel like Houston's might have a sweep on their hands.
See, I agree with you, but I also tend to disagree with you because I think Seattle and Houston might be closer than we think. I think Seattle right now showed a lot and showed something that I don't think we were ready for. And that was them being down 8-1 to the Toronto Blue Jays in game 2. They come roaring back, and the Toronto Blue Jays, Mitch, it's a reason I picked the Mariners. The Blue Jays pitching was just so suspect. I did not trust the Blue Jays pitching. We saw firsthand what the Mariners were capable of when they were probably the hottest team in baseball at the end of August into Labor Day weekend, when the Guardians played them in Seattle. And then I believe the next weekend or 2 weekends after played them in Cleveland. The Mariners have it. And now you talk about familiarity. You're playing a team in your division, 17 times a year? And now you're going to play them in a winner go home series, best of 5. I will take Houston. I won't be shocked though if Seattle wins, but I will say this, Mitch, I will be shocked. And I went on record saying it's the Guardians over the Yankees. If it's not though, I will be stunned if all 4 of the teams that had byes advance to the championship series. I do think we will see at least one team, one of the top 2 teams in the AL or the NL, go down in the American League or National League Division Series. And my reasoning for that is just going off previous postseasons. Obviously, it was a different format. When it was the 1-game wild card, almost every single year, a wild card winner would go on to make it to the American League or National League Championship Series. I think the rest is going to end up hurting one of those 4 teams that had a bye, and we're going to see somebody upset somebody.
I don't disagree with you there. I do think one of them will falter. Which one of them, though, do you think is the most likely to be upset?
I can't believe, if I'm not saying most likely, because I do think the Guardians and Yankees, I picked that already, but
right.
My gut for some reason is telling me it's the Dodgers, Mitch. My gut tells me I think the most likely upset out of all 4 would be the San Diego Padres over the Dodgers. And why? Little things can really get a team to click. And I think we saw that last night in game 3 in New York with the whole Joe Musgrove pitching. He was dominating, and then Buck Showalter comes out, claims that there's substance on Musgrove's, whatever you want to say, fingers, glove, hat, ears. And you saw the umpires go out, look at his glove, look at his hand, and then feel Joe Musgrove's ears for substance, which wasn't there. And that ultimately fired up Musgrove even more. The Mets had 1 hit in a winner go home game. And Joe Musgrove, to me, Mitch, is really probably the best pitcher on that staff if you just took away all the names and put the numbers up. I mean, he is somebody that's been there for a while, probably the most the longest tenured pitcher in the Padres uniform because they went out and got Darvish. They traded for Snell 2 years ago. Clevenger, as we know, they traded for 2 years ago. I think that what we saw last night in New York with what Buck Showalter did, and you saw the reaction of even Kim, the shortstop, and Manny Machado, I think the Padres may have gotten a little bit of swagger. And not only that, they won a series without their big boppers doing much. They really won that game last night with their 6, 7, 8, 9 hitters coming through in the clutch, like Nola, the number 9 hitter who put the first 2 on the board. Kim got on and scored each time he got on base. Grisham, the center fielder who hit 184 all year, hit home runs in games 1 and 2 for the Padres. I would have to say right now, I think the team in most jeopardy is the Los Angeles Dodgers.
You know, what's funny is that I actually, after we both agreed rather that one of these teams is going to falter, one of the bye teams, I just noticed my prediction on the card here, and I did pick all 4 of the bye teams to move on to the championship series. You're the only one that well, you have Cleveland obviously in there first of all, but the other team that you can't make it is St. Louis because you did them to face off with the Dodgers in there, which is fine.
Well,
I can understand that.
It's a new round, right? If the managers get to redo their roster every round, you get to redo your pick. So I know what you said before the wild card round started. So if you can go away from that, give me the team you think could get upset.
I said Houston's easily going to win. I think Dodgers easily going to win. I could see Atlanta losing. I could see Philadelphia matching up with the pitching staff, even though Atlanta's got a lot of good arms. And if the team can put together a string of hits like they did in game 1, that is a sneaky possible upset. I feel like if Cleveland were to beat the Yankees, which I don't expect, but I think it could go a 5-game series. I don't know how many people would be surprised by that. I don't know if that would necessarily be this ultimate shocker because Cleveland proved itself against a team with, I would argue, better starting pitching, and a team that could string together hits better than the Yankees could. The Yankees more so rely on the long ball, and they thrive on it. Don't get me wrong; they have one of the most successful home run hitting campaigns in ever in Aaron Judge. But I don't know if the guys fall into a slump, and that can easily drop them a couple of points. But I still think Atlanta and Philadelphia is the one that is most evenly matched to me. But not enough people are giving Philadelphia credit.
I agree. I was one of them. I will put my hand in the air and say I didn't give the Phillies enough credit. I will also say that was the one series I probably didn't pay attention to in terms of matchups off the bat.
Right.
The Cardinals never even threw Adam Wainwright. And Mitch, I made that prediction thinking Adam Wainwright was going to throw. I believe game 1 was Jose Quintana for the Cardinals. And then Phillies in game 2 had their guy, Aaron Nola. It was his first postseason start. I believe he had been there since 2012. So a long awaited time for Nola. Crazy little factoid, but if you remember back in the early 2010s, late 2000s, the Phillies started to make that giant run with the likes of Ryan Howard, Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, Shane Victorino. The Cardinals were the ones that beat the Phillies in 2011 that then saw the Phillies blow it up. The Phillies now beat the Cardinals as we see Adam Wainwright, Albert Pujols, and Yadier Molina call it a career. So a little just something fun there 11 years later. But Mitch, one note I want to make is the ALDS pitching matchup for the Guards and Yankees has been announced. Game 1, it will be Cal Quantrill versus Garrett Cole. Game 2 will be Shane Bieber versus Nestor Cortez. And game 3 will be Tristan McKenzie versus Luis Severino.
Do you think that, I'm just kind of pulling a question out of my rear here. Do you think that if the Guardians go on an extended run here, do you think that Cal Quantrill's first loss at Progressive Field comes in these playoffs? Because it's a different game.
So we're talking about that Quantrill's going to start on Tuesday. So
he's going to start Tuesday in New York.
Right, in New York. So realistically, if there was a game 4, he could be due back up. But if they go on if they were to win the series and keep advancing, I think there's a good chance. But Mitch, I would say before we saw how Bieber and McKenzie pitched, I think I was the most confident in Quantrill if he had to pitch at Progressive Field. I think that's why I originally said Guardians in 3, because I thought this guy at home is just a completely different pitcher, and he has given you no reason to bet against him yet, right? This isn't a small 12-game sample size. This is over a 3-year sample size when he was still a San Diego Padre. He has not lost a home start since 2019 when he was in a San Diego Padre uniform. And so that's something special there. And ultimately, if you are the Guards and you can split game 1 or 2 or just get game 3 at home and you send it to 4, I would feel really confident that you're either wrapping up the series or you're sending the series back to New York for game 5 if Quantrill's on the mound.
Yeah, he's one of the most undersold starting pitchers in these playoffs right now. 15-5, 3.38 ERA on the year. Because we always talk about his home record when he gets a start there, I'm always thinking like, oh, how's he gonna do on the road? It's the Bronx. Like that, that city will eat up timid pitchers like it's a snack. So
they do. I would say the one start I saw from him this year that it's nowhere near comparable, but it would be a tough environment to play was him going back to San Diego. When Cal Quantrill pitched for us in San Diego this year, he was fired up. And I think that's why I love him. You have some pitchers that wear their emotion on their sleeves. You have other pitchers that show no emotion at all. I like Cal Quantrill going out there game 1, facing off against Garrett Cole. I think Cal Quantrill already knows that the odds are stacked against the Guards in game 1. And he's been one of the most vocal players all year saying, no one's believed in us. We don't care what the outside noise is. I really like this spot for him because I know it's on the road. I know it's going to be a tough environment, but I think going back to San Diego this year, maybe gave him just a little bit of what it's going to be like because the San Diego fans booed him as soon as he came on the mound there.
Well, hopefully by the time we record our next episode, the Cleveland Guardians will be in a good spot in terms of their division series. I don't think they would be able to wrap it up by then, but it would be nice to see them up a game or two by our next episode. So we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get to the NFL, and there was some breaking news that we want to get to in just a couple of minutes.
You asked for it and we listened. Buckeye Career Center is now offering Certified Nail Technician as an adult education program. This 216-hour course begins in November and will run Tuesday through Thursday evenings from 5 to 9 p.m. Learn manicures, pedicures, infection control, salon operations, and more. Other part-time certification courses starting this fall include phlebotomy and welding. Call 330-339-2288 to register or visit BuckeyeCareerCenter.org for more information.
If you're looking for a new or pre-owned car or truck, why not see the Parkway Auto Group? Parkway is a special group of automotive experts with 8 brands to satisfy your needs. Come see the difference at the Parkway Auto Group on Commercial Parkway in Dover. 8 brands and 1 family. It's Parkway Auto Group.
The Furby Electric Supply Company has bright ideas for your home. Save money by converting to energy-efficient electrical products or add ambiance with beautiful lighting features. It begins with a professional consultation and a visit to the Furby Lighting Showroom. Then certified Furby contractors complete your project right and on time. Since 1934, 4 generations have built a reputation of quality and trust, and they offer emergency services too. Just visit Furby.com. That's F-U-R-B-A-Y. The Furby Electric Supply Company.
It takes a lot of practice to have a winning team. Albin Title has over 100 years of combined experience handling real estate, title, and escrow transactions. They serve Tuscarawas, Stark, Carroll, Harrison counties, and more. So choose Albin Title for your next home refinance, sale, or purchase. They'll get it done quickly and professionally. Contact Albin Title at 330-334-5800 or visit their website albintitle.com. Let them put their experience to work for you.
You matter. Everyone plays a part. We all have a role. Each of us can make a difference. You do matter, and the best way to have a positive impact is to pay it forward. With each of us helping one another to cope, feel better, and know that we belong. Pass on the positivity today. Tell someone else they matter too. Alt Care.
Alt Care, Alt Care. Where you matter.
Fall is in the air and part-time career enhancement courses at Buckeye Career Center are on the horizon. Registration is now open for Introduction to Beekeeping, Basic Small Engine Repair, and Sign Language. These part-time offerings run on Tuesday evenings and begin in November. Let Buckeye Career Center help you learn a new skill or advance your current skill set. Call 330-339-2288 for more information or to reserve your seat in one of these or our other part-time classes.
Well, we're back here on the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. Mitch Spinell, Mitchell Balla. To show, I'm not even getting that one, but Mitch, we got to go from baseball to football now. And I know that you're so excited to talk about football because there was a football game this weekend in Ohio that was played, and it was Ohio State putting up a big win against Michigan State. That was a solid victory. CJ Stroud added to his Heisman campaign. No, we're talking about a 30-28 final on Sunday between the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Cleveland Guardians. Browns. Jeez, come on, Mitch.
You just want to think about the guards, baby. That's all there is to think about because the Browns are dead.
You especially want to think about them because according to you, the Browns are dead. And after this week, they are they're not lifting themselves out of the casket any much more.
I should have wore my sunglasses today to block out all the haters that I know were punching the air with some of the things I said in previous episodes. Browns are dead. Defense is terrible. We can't tackle now. We used to not be able to defend the pass. I expected us to get absolutely blown away in this game, but Justin Herbert didn't throw because we can't defend the run now either. Our linebackers are terrible. Denzel Ward left with a concussion. Martin Emerson Jr., I will say, bright spot yesterday for the Browns. He played very well. I like the pick. I think he's a very athletic and big corner. John Johnson III is just stealing the money from the Browns. He's done nothing, especially in this season. Joe Woods is terrible. And once again, Jacoby Brissett lost you a game. There has been now 3 interceptions he has thrown in the 3 losses we have. Under 3 minutes to play. They've all actually come under 250. And it's now back-to-back weeks. He has cost you a game. He is a backup quarterback for a reason. And there's a reason I had no faith in him whatsoever, and I still don't. And not only did he throw the interception, Mitch, Brandon Staley's boneheaded decision to go for it in their own territory to ice the game on 4th and 2. You know why? Because analytics said so.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I don't mean to cut you off, but that's 4th and whatever it was decision could have easily gone. If they just get that first down, it's looked at, he's a great risk taker, and because Kevin Stefanski has done that so many freaking times this Browns offense. The trick is the Browns offense isn't as good as the Chargers typically is. And I don't know. There was just something about that move where I understood what he was going for, but at the same time, I was like, oh, that might come back to haunt them. And then of course it didn't.
My thing is he did it last year in a game that literally meant everything for the season, and it cost them in the playoffs. But at the same time, I don't know why you wouldn't, because the Browns, obviously, they have no worry about the Browns passing attack. But my other thing to the Browns offense, the play calling on the drive once we got the stop. Why on earth would you take a shot to the end zone on 2nd down when you have no timeouts and all you need is a field goal? Not only is that a boneheaded play, the pass was out of bounds, so it wasn't even catchable.
Right.
You then set yourself up for an opportunity or the only opportunity you had was to pass the ball and hope your guy could get out of bounds because you had 20 seconds left with no timeouts on 3rd down, and you had to rush your field goal unit out there if you were tackled in bounds. The Browns had no chance to do that. I don't know if they would have got a kickoff, and if they did, Cade York, who was already having a rough day, would have had to been rushed. And to me, that was it right there. When he passed deep on 2nd and 10, that told me everything I needed to know. You have the best running back in football. It's not even a question anymore. Nick Chubb is the best running back in football, and anybody that disagrees can fight me. Against the worst rushing defense in football. How on earth can you justify, if you're Kevin Stefanski, Jacoby Brissett passing the ball 34 times and you handing the ball off to Chubb and Hunt 28? How? You can't justify that whatsoever. There is no reason that Jacoby Brissett should be throwing the ball more than the best running back in the league gets carries, or let alone the best running back in all of football, who's probably a top 10 to 12 running back in the league in Kareem Hunt, getting 11 carries. It's inexcusable. And you were playing the worst rushing defense in the league. If you would have told me, hey, you're playing a team that stops the run, I get it. I really do. No, I don't care. I am so far away from everybody else that wants to say it's on Joe Woods or Kevin Stefanski's a great head coach. Kevin Stefanski has 1 or 2 bad play calls or 1 or 2 massive gaffes a game. And this is yet again another one. They want to get so smart and they want to think, they think we're going to run. We're going to pass. No, just run the ball. Run the damn ball. We've been saying it since you came here as head coach in 2020, which you ran the ball a lot there and it worked. Guess what? Took you to the playoffs. Won a playoff game. I'm so sick and tired of hearing about analytics. It only works in baseball because baseball is literally a numbers game. Football is football players where analytics can help you occasionally. And I'm so sick and tired of it. And I'm going to say it right now. The seat's warm. It is warm. I can't take it anymore. The only thing I will give Kevin Stefanski props for, Mitch, is he didn't come out yesterday and go, I have to be better. Put it on me. I need to do a better job, because he said that every single time they lose. And my question is, what is he going to do to change it? Yesterday, he finally did not take blame for the defense sucking. Stat right here for you. The Browns defense has been credited with 46 missed tackles.
Yeah.
2022, which is the 5th highest through week 5. And that's not even including Monday Night Football tonight as we record. We can't tackle. We can't stop the run. We can't stop the pass. And we have a backup quarterback who are putting the football in his hands more so than our best player on the entire team, and Nick Chubb. And people wonder why we're 2-3. Well, we could be 5-0, and you very well could be 1-4. It's as simple as that.
I think there's a case you could even be 0-5 with some of the things that have happened in the victories. I mean, look, the defense is the major issue right now. And I wasn't initially on I'm not a person who wishes for anybody to lose their job or their livelihood, but Joe Woods has had some very suspect. I can't even really blame it all on the preparation for the team, because Joe Woods isn't out there missing tackles. Joe Woods isn't out there blowing coverage. Joe Woods isn't out there giving up however many yards and how many touchdowns, 16 carries, 173 yards and a score to Austin Eckler, when Eckler had maybe that many combined yardage in the first 3 games.
He only had 2 100-yard rushing games in his career.
Right. And you make him look out to be a guy like Nick Chubb, who, again, it stinks that we have only a few key pieces that we can say they're doing their job. There's no blame on them. As far as Jacoby goes and the offense, I think the play calling can be suspect sometimes. I especially got annoyed when I think it was the first touchdown, but maybe there's a second one, when they opted to try and pass multiple times before getting bailed out by a pass interference call on 3rd and 10, which led to the Browns getting another shot at the end zone and thankfully scoring. But I think there are multiple opportunities where you get inside that red zone where the team has struggled this year. You can utilize your running backs. And to be fair, there were instances yesterday where they would have like short yardages to go and they wouldn't get it. But you're right. At that last drive in particular really said something to me, because you could have ran it twice and try to really get some good fielding position down there. You could have spiked it on 3rd down or try to sideways pass, get out of bounds. Make it easier for your rookie kicker. I understand that this guy has been touted as a guy who can boom kicks. I get it. And he makes that 58-yarder in week 1. That guy shouldn't be relied on at this point in his career for this many game-winning long kicks week after week, putting yourselves in that position for him to be there. And again, he's only 5 games into his professional career. That's not easy for anybody, especially in a place where you're going to have to learn to kick in some very interesting conditions, both weather-wise and on the field. So I don't know. I think it was just it's another frustrating loss. And the key is we have at least next week against a team that I don't think is as good as the Chargers. And if you win that one, then you do settle some heads and you get back to 500 when you now have to play your in-division rivals, who haven't been exactly lighting it up as we saw last night in the last few weeks of the season.
I will say 2 things regarding the Browns, and then I will, slowly backtrack, because Mitch, to me, they are dead. There's a reason I said they're not winning more than 5 to 6 games this year. 1, no more talk about the talent on this team. There is no talent. At what point do you have to stop saying we're so talented, because nobody's showing up and doing their job? And that's
the running backs do.
That's it though. All I keep hearing is this is a top 5 defense on paper.
Nah.
The talent on the defense is outstanding. No, it's not. It's not. Everything else statistically, for all you analytical heads out there, go look at your numbers. Your defense is trash. You're awful. And the other thing that a buddy of mine posed to me, and I'm going to ask the same question to you, Mitch, and I don't know if I would say yes, but I thought it was a fair question. Is Cade York's confidence already shook because Kevin Stefanski will not kick field goals? Think about when we've relied on Cade York. We rely on him at the end of the games where he bailed them out in Carolina, but there's other times now where we've seen them deep into the opponent's territory, and we've gone for it numerous times and come up empty-handed, where 3 points would really help you out in most cases. Is Cade York putting too much pressure on himself already through 5 weeks because he knows he has to make them? Granted, I know he thinks that already because it's his job, but your coach has not relied on you when you're closer to the goal line before. Is that all? I mean, keep in mind, Mitch, he's 21. He's a 21-year-old kid that is moved away. He's a Southern boy from Texas, went to LSU. He has now moved all the way up north. I think it's a fair question. I really do.
And I don't know if if the going forward on fourth down, like we've been talking about, has kind of instilled or removed the confidence from him. If anything, I think it might be something like the missed point after back in week 2. I feel like that's something that could easily rattle a guy, especially when you make those on such a regular basis, and then it leads to the domino effect of what that Jets and Browns game was. I can't see Stefanski's usage of him, because he still uses him in the red zone opportunities when they're not that close. Still uses him for point after. I think he relies on his kicker enough. I think yesterday maybe the first one got in his head. That's the only one I can think of, because
yeah. And here's the thing: if you can change that play calling and you do run and you get 8 yards, we're talking about the Browns winning 31-30. Probably. Because that kick just missed slightly right at the last second. Where if you're 8 yards closer, it probably just bends right inside the upright. But instead, we're sitting here at 2-3 for a team that a lot of people think should be 5-0. It's just 5 weeks to me, Mitch. I've had enough. I can't take it anymore. And that's why I'm not going to let them really affect my mood or be shocked anymore when they lose these games, because I'm numb to it now. And the Guardians are in the playoffs and the Cavs are 10 days away from tip off. And the Buckeyes are, in my opinion, the top team in the country. So the Browns to me are dead last. They're dead to me. And that's about all I can say.
I don't think the team is dead, mainly because I think they are still trying to do things to keep their team alive once they get Watson back. By the way, Watson's back in the facilities today. He is allowed under the suspension. Deion Jones, we didn't even get to. Andrew Berry making that trade right after the game last night because the safety or the linebacker game hasn't been particularly strong. I mean, Jacob Phillips didn't have a great game again. Jones was last a Pro Bowler in 2017, has played 16 games, 4 out of the last 5 seasons. So at least he can keep himself on the field, it seems. I'm hoping that can bring something to the defense, or at least something different than what we have at this point. But it could be worse, Matt or Mitch. We could not have a head coach starting today. And that was the breaking news that we were going to get to.
Yeah, I was going to say we could be the Carolina Panthers.
Carolina Panthers, according to reports, have fired Matt Rule as their head coach after just 5 games into this season. The Panthers, of course, now 1-4 after yesterday's loss to the 49ers. I mean, we were looking at the highlights yesterday. Baker Mayfield throws a pick 6. He's limping off the field. He asks if someone's questioning his job in the post-game press conference. Like, buddy, if Baker, it's getting hard for me to watch Baker's reign in Carolina now. It's getting difficult. Like, and that's not me trying to take pity on the guy, but with all the talk of like all these people who wanted to keep Baker because they were angry about getting Watson, you're kind of seeing an effect now of what the worst of Baker could be. And granted, I think he wasn't playing in a program that was suiting him. Right. But at this point, what does suit him? Because this is going to be his 6th head coach in 5 seasons.
And that's the thing, Mitch. And there's already going to be people out there saying, "Oh, Baker's a head coach killer, right? This is a 6th head coach," and that's really not fair. You cannot put it all on Baker Mayfield. And that. And here's a stat for you that just tells you how bad Matt Rule's teams were. Matt Rule went 1-27. Keep that in mind. 1 win and 27 losses when his opponent scored 17 plus points. The Bears this year, with how bad they are averaging just 17 points. His team could not even muster. It's like the Browns last year, Mitch. How many games did we just need to score 17 points and we would have had a completely different result and we would have been in the playoffs? And now the Panthers just are abysmal. And you can say Baker Mayfield, sure, but it's only been for 5 games. So take away what? 5 of those 27 losses, and Matt Rule's been there. It's a Matt Rule problem in Carolina. First off, Baker has looked terrible. There's no way around that. And you can put that on him. You can put that whatever you want, but this was a long overdue firing just based off results and how the team responded. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. You already have Jay Glazer of Fox Sports reporting that multiple teams are already calling the Panthers about their players. DJ Moore being one of them, who, as we know, is unhappy there with Baker. You have to imagine, not that the Panthers would ever trade him, but you have to imagine that maybe teams are trying to inquire about Christian McCaffrey. The Panthers have a lot of interesting pieces that could be up for trade. But yeah, Matt Rule gone, first head coach fired this year, Mitch. And we did our NFL prediction to start the season. I had said Mike McCarthy, who is now 4-1 after 5 weeks. So I strike out on that. We have our first hit or miss of the preseason predictions, and it's a miss.
I did too. I mean, I got Cliff Kingsbury. I mean, I shouldn't have, if anything, I probably should have just said, I guess Rule, but other than Rule, I'm trying to think of other guys that could have been on this hot seat because a lot of teams just aren't great this year. We're looking at some of the games yesterday. Some of the teams that have really been struggling so far this year now, and we're not just talking about the usual bad teams, like even the Rams yesterday have not looked fantastic. You mentioned the Cowboys beating them, took a couple of big plays for them to at the start for them to build up the points. But the offense is just not looking right now. And I don't know what is the deal there with McVay's squad, but give credit to Dallas's defense. The defense right now for Dallas is playing fantastically, and that's why they're 4-1 right now. You could say, oh, Cooper Rush. It's the defense. The defense and certain offensive pieces are doing what they can right now.
1,000%. And I'll be the first to admit the Cowboys defense is great because I'm not a Cowboys hater. I just don't believe in them because they get hype every year and they never do anything with it. But you're right, Mitch. If you put up the league standings, and obviously it could change slightly with Monday Night Football, and you look at some of the teams at the bottom, Washington, yeah, we kind of expected them to be bad. Detroit, shockingly, through the first 4 weeks, scored the most points in all of football, but they were 1-3, now 1-4.
Got shut out.
But then you have the Pittsburgh Steelers, where if the draft started today, they are picking second overall. And no, I don't sympathize for any of you Steelers fans out there. I take great pride and lore in all this. I hope you guys continue to lose every single game. You have the Raiders at 1-3, Mitch. Now I know they played tonight on Monday Night Football, but if they lose, they're right there too. The Bengals at 2-3. A lot of people thought the Bengals could be the second favorite in the AFC behind the Bills. And right now they have 2 division losses. So it's just, this league is just crazy. And then on the flip side, Mitch, the New York Giants, 4-1.
Yeah.
The New York Giants
beating the Packers yesterday overseas. I mean, that was something else. Saquon had a good game. Aaron Rodgers got 2 tipped passes at the end, and all of a sudden, Brian Daboll. Oh, that's what I was thinking of earlier. Brian Daboll should have been my pick for Coach of the Year over Staley, because Daboll's just willing this Giants team right now to do great things. I don't know what's going on there. He's making Daniel Jones look like a capable franchise quarterback.
He sure is. He sure is. And now you start to see why Josh Allen was in the right system, had the right people in his corner, and why he is what he is. He had one head coach and one offensive coordinator since he came into the league.
Yep.
So for all the people out there that still say, oh, the Browns passed on him, look what he would be. No, he wouldn't.
No,
he probably wouldn't be this at all. He would have gone through the same thing Baker went through of 3 different coaches in 2 years.
He wouldn't have lasted. He wouldn't have lasted as long as Baker would have.
No, and the stability is a huge factor. And that's part of the reason we have all this quarterbacks that come to die in Cleveland, this, that, whatever. Josh Allen is now showing you what Brian Daboll can do. And Brian Daboll is starting to make Daniel Jones look like an above average quarterback. Daniel Jones, a guy that Mitch can't hold on to the football to save his life. I'm not talking about picks. I'm talking about fumbles. And this guy is now 4-1. The Giants, who I thought, Mitch, were probably going to be a bottom 5 team. And Saquon Barkley's back, and he's making his case with his fellow draft mate Nick Chubb for best backs in the league right now. It's crazy to where they are. They beat the Packers. They're 4-1. Hats off to the Jets. But this season through 5 weeks has been crazy. And you can see that from just the standings, or if you listen to us and listen to who we pick week in and week out.
You said Giants, or you said Jets accidentally over the Giants. Give credit to the Jets right now, 3-2.
Oh, that's another team wanted to give credit to.
Against Miami. Zach Wilson's doing something there. I don't know what he's doing, but he's doing it. And we shall see what's going to happen there. Also, how do we not, before we go to break, how do we not address the game that we could not get to on Thursday night because we already finished filming maybe one of the worst, the least enjoyable NFL experiences I've ever had. And I've seen many Browns games, but definitely one of the top 3 outside of the Browns, because 8 field goals. Okay. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe? Was it 7 or 8? 7 made field goals. How about that? And then Denver gets down to the wire. It went into overtime, by the way, and you could tell because of all the Broncos fans leaving the stadium on camera, which I could not believe that. even the Browns fans at their lowest wouldn't have done that. Cut to somebody, in their video showing a clip of Browns fans taking off early during a game from 2013.
Well, if it was the 17th season, it was kind of acceptable. When you trade for what people thought was a top tier quarterback and you give them $200+ million and you leave at a home game on prime time, that's a little different than the Cleveland Browns being
winless. It gets down to the wire. They go for it on 4th down when you could have easily went for the tie again. I think that was maybe in the head of like, oh, they could have put the ball in Russ's hands week 1 against Seattle.
Yeah.
And he has got wide open. I mean, just I don't even know what to say there. And then it goes incomplete. He has the receiver who was open,
KJ Hamler,
slamming his helmet on the ground. And I was a guy who in the past couple of days thought the hatred got to a very nasty point when it came to Russ. Like, it got a little too personal, started going after some of the stuff he does off the field, which I don't necessarily think is fair.
Right.
But I understand when I say I understand why people are going after him in this way. Obviously, it's because he's not winning, but it's this sort of domino effect where it does make sense to me, even though I don't necessarily condone it, because I mean, Seattle's going to get a top 5 pick at this rate. We don't know if Denver can somehow magically turn it around like what was it, the Raiders did last year, where they went on that. Did they start off well and then collapse, or was it reverse? Either way, they didn't. They had like a binary season, and Denver might have that. But right now, Seattle with Geno Smith looks like, and even though they lost yesterday, looks like they might be in a better position as an organization than the Broncos do. That like, I don't care what Seahawks fans say. Oh, you guys, we saw this coming a mile away. Russ was declining. You didn't see this. You didn't see this. Don't give me that. Miss me with that. Like, come on. But with that being said, it is just, that's why I'm not particularly upset with the Browns right now, because we could be in a spot where we're getting so ridiculed and losing as much with the expectations like Denver is.
It's bad. And that play, you would think for a quarterback of that magnitude and the things he's done, he had his mind made up before the ball was snapped. That's all you can say. He did what a lot of us people that play Madden do so often. We look at the route when we call a play and we're like, okay, B is open or X is open. We're going there once we snap the ball. That's what Russ did, because he didn't look right at all. You had KJ Hamler, who could have caught that ball, went down on his own without being down because no one would have touched him. He could have army crawled to the end zone, I think, for a game-winning touchdown for the Broncos. Instead, Russ throws it incomplete. And I mean, Mitch, we're not in there. I don't listen to Denver sports talk radio. I don't know. Maybe you do. I can't imagine things are going well right now, but this is the first time this season. I'm not going to put that loss on Nathaniel Hackett. When you have a quarterback of that magnitude, you should be able to make that play. When you've done everything you've done in your career, you should know what to do with that ball. And Russ choked. He choked. And it's hard because you don't know where to point the finger right now. In Denver, I would point it everywhere, because I think Hackett isn't over his head, that new head coach. But Russ has not been what they traded for whatsoever.
Yeah, going back. Yeah, going back to Hackett. I mean, he seems, unfortunately, in the situation that Freddie Kitchens was in his one season in Cleveland, where he almost doesn't seem like he's in charge. It seems, if anything, Russ is in charge, and neither one of them are getting the job done right now. I mean, and there's the whole thing about, how not even just how people are making fun of Russ for being what is considered corny off the field, or his former Seahawks teammates coming out and implying that he was not the greatest. I mean, you even got the reports. Was it a report or a confirmation? I can't remember, that he might even have his own office at the team facility. So it basically, I
did not see that.
It feeds into the narrative that he was given so much by the organization. And even though it's only in year one, this is what you might have to look forward to if you don't get the rest of the team together. I don't know. That's a really tough situation for the Broncos currently. We're only 5 weeks into the season. Things can easily turn around for certain teams. Philadelphia is the last remaining undefeated team, by the way, and there's no guarantee that they're going to make it into these playoffs with the way Dallas and New York are competing right now. I mean, look at the Bears from a few years ago, starting off 6-0 and then missing out.
Yeah.
So either way, we'll get into more of that stuff this coming week. We'll obviously get more of our picks in there. Not including tonight, by the way. I was trying to check off how many we have here. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 so far. You do. Well, 7. I think it's just 7 right now for you.
I have 9 and 6 for me, and I have 7 and 8 for you.
Okay, maybe I didn't write all of them down, and then
well, you keep in mind I did show proof for all the listeners out there.
You
I
did.
did change my pick.
You did.
I changed the Ravens.
Oh, that's the one I didn't. That's the one I didn't mark down.
So I had Chargers, Bills, Vikings, Saints, Bucks, Titans, Niners, Eagles, and Ravens.
Eagles, yeah. Eagles. I didn't mark that one down either. And then
I lost on the Rams, Jags, Dolphins,
Buccaneers.
I took the Buccaneers.
Yeah, okay. I was wondering if for some reason I wondered if Tampa Bay lost or played yesterday as well.
No, they had the wonderful where the Falcons got the stop, sack Tom Brady, and then the wonderful roughing the passer called because Tom Brady. It's just I'm sick and tired.
That guy. I don't think he kicked that guy. At the end.
It's hard to say, but
I kick a guy from that position on your back, basically. Like
I don't know. Ask Greg Robinson during the 2019 season for the Browns.
I think. Well, no, Ndamukong Suh stomped on a guy. I don't think.
He stomped on a guy. Greg Robinson for the Browns kicked a guy against the Titans in our home opener.
Somebody swung their momentum to where their foot landed on a guy's groin, but I'm not going to get more into that. This is a family show. So anyway, when we get back, we're going to get more into some high school level stuff. That's a great transition right into that. We'll come in. We'll be back right after this.
We all have 206 things in common. Our bones keep us up and moving. And we at Cleveland Clinic Union Hospital care about every single one of them. From the tip of your finger to a brand new hip, our orthopedic experts will keep you going while keeping you safe. For every break and breakthrough, for every bone and joint, for every care in the world. Get the care you need when and where you need it. Visit unionhospital.org.
Hard work is something you're accustomed to. Van Nostrand Young understands that principle. Our access is achieved with organizations like Grange Insurance. Safety and prevention specialists utilize our VanCan assessments process to ensure that you and your colleagues are in the best hands. You want the safest environment for your business, and we can guide you there.
Call Van Nostrand Young Insurance in North Canton at 330-497.
You deserve the best. And at Ferris Chevrolet, Buick, Cadillac, Toyota, that's what you get. We consider you, the customer, to be part of our family. Anybody can make promises, but when you visit Ferris, you get the Ferris deal from a Ferris wheel. So if you're looking for a car, truck, or van, think Ferris.
If you're purchasing a new home, the team at Hartzler's Quality Housing is here to help. Take advantage of record low interest rates to make your new home a reality. Locally owned and operated since 1978, Hartzler's Quality Housing has the experience to guide you through the process. You'll find a wide selection of model homes on site to fit any budget. Open 6 days a week just off I-77. You can also visit them online at hartzlers.com. Hartzler's Quality Housing. Quality from start to finish.
When others treat your fries as an afterthought, all you're left with are cold, soggy fries. That's why Wendy's new fries are ones you won't forget, guaranteed to be hot and crispy, or we'll replace them. We're talking natural cut, skin-on fries, perfectly seasoned with a hint of sea salt. In fact, they're even preferred almost 2-to-1 over McDonald's. These are fries so hot and crispy, they beg a new question.
What would you like with your fries?
Try them today, only at Wendy's.
At participating U.S. Wendy's, taste preference based on a national taste test by an independent research company.
And we're back here on the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. Final segment, Mitch Pinnell and Mitchell Balla. It's time to talk high school sports now. And we had an interesting week 8 in the football landscape. I was at a game this past week. Mitch, I'm sure, was out and about covering a lot of the Stark stuff. I mean, you were at least keeping tabs on a lot of the Stark stuff because there was a lot of great games, a lot of cool finals that we were able to see. Obviously, I'm looking at some of the ones listed here. What was the one that kind of stood out to you? Because I'm looking at some of these ones here. Green had a huge victory over Perry. I mean, Robbie Klockner just continues to just pile on these numbers. 5 touchdowns, 389 passing yards. This is insane. And in an area where you don't see a lot of unbelievable passing marks, you have a number of good players, but some of them stand out more than others. This guy is just putting up video game statistics.
He literally is. I mean, it's hard to say if you put all the quarterbacks up here in Stark County in a line and had him show up. But right now, Robbie Klockner is proving he's probably one of the better passing, if not the best passing quarterback in all Stark County. But let's start there, Mitch, right? You said Green winning a thriller 38-35. And what's more impressive is Perry is a team that runs the ball. So this was really a back and forth game between explosive play after explosive play. Ultimately, Green walks away a winner. And really that kind of narrows down the Federal League for everybody. Right now, if you're Hoover, you have to hope that this upcoming week, Glen Oak can upset McKinley to have a shot at the Federal League. But right now, McKinley, with a win this upcoming week against Glen Oak, can really wrap up the Federal League and take the Federal League title outright. McKinley was victorious this past weekend, now winning, I believe, 5 or 4 in a row. They're now 4-4. They beat Jackson 40-23. Interesting note for Jackson, who, by the way, was on the Big Time Sports TV show last week. Quarterback change coming. You saw Joe Lattarulo, the starter since, I believe, week 3. Little back and forth with a new quarterback, and that is freshman Lucas Eckerman. And the entire second half, Mitch, went to Lucas Eckerman. Eckerman actually got Jackson on the board first in the first half to cut it to a 6-point game. Lattarulo re-entered, and then Eckerman re-entered 44 seconds left, down 26-7, and led the team on a field goal drive before the half. Something to keep your eyes on, right? 2 weeks to go. Jackson, I believe, has Central this week, and then rivalry week kicks off when they will host the Hoover Vikings. Can the freshman get enough reps in right now to really lead Jackson to have a shot in the playoffs? Because as the standings were, Jackson looks like they are comfortably in with the playoffs, especially if they are able to get a week this upcoming week. You do have Lake that beat Hoover, though, 35-15. Lake gets back on track. Huge win for Lake. And I believe I actually mixed that up. Lake is the team that needs Hoover or needs McKinley to lose, not Hoover. That is Hoover's second Federal League loss. So Lake, I'm sorry, needing a Glen Oak upset this week. Glen Oak, though, rebounding last week after a 38-0 loss at Jackson. They put up 48, knock off Louisville 48-13. Massillon does what Massillon has been doing all season since week 1. They remain the top team in Stark County, the hottest team in Stark County, maybe all of Northeast Ohio. They beat Canisius from New York 42-7 over at Paul Brown Stadium. And Mitch, we're just one more game away before the longest and perhaps greatest high school football rivalry is back, where the McKinley Bulldogs will travel to Massillon this year to take on the Massillon Tigers on a Saturday afternoon. But this is always trap week, right? We see it in college football. A lot of guys get excited because when you play those rivalry games, the records go out the window. They just want to beat the rival. But this is the week that some really good teams can trip up because they're already starting to look ahead. And you know what the pressure is. You hear about it all the time from McKinley and Massillon players. So can those two teams this upcoming week, and we'll touch on it in our next episode later this week, but can those two teams stay focused enough this week to get or to take care of their business before we enter week 10 and rivalry week? Canton South, though, Mitch, really quickly, 49-7 over Tuslaw. They stay hot. Central Catholic, 49, East Liverpool 6. The Crusaders also staying hot. Fairless getting another win, 40-14. And Northwest defeating Triway 28-7. And the Big Time Sports game of the week that we aired up here in Stark County, West Branch and Alliance, was a thriller. It saw West Branch walk away 42-35 over Alliance. Both those teams are primed and ready to make a playoff run later in the season here. Phenomenal game that we got to host here and air on Big Time Sports. Hopefully you got to catch that. But really, Mitch, a fun and a lot of scoring in most of these games up here in Stark County this past week.
Absolutely. And also a quick one, Orville beating CVCA 39-38. You mentioned one of the big rivals in the longest running rivals in high school history in Canton, McKinley, and Massillon. And certainly that is the big one. Along with, I have down here Dover and New Philadelphia, both teams victorious this week. Dover beat Boardman 28-10 to get back on track. Dover had a couple of losses in there. And then New Philadelphia beating Lexington 10-7. Not a high scoring game by any means, but the New Philly defense had 4 interceptions early on in the game, 3 of them alone from defensive back Dakota McCune, who is one of the top defenders for the Quakers. As far as the rest of the area goes, The big touch points obviously are on the tops of the IVC North and the South. On the North side, in double overtime, Newcomerstown, who we've also had on the show, on the Big Time Sports Show at the station, 48-42 over Malvern, and they're now 3-0 in conference play, 6-2 overall. The same record as Malvern, but Malvern's 2-1, obviously. You know, Newcomerstown is inching closer and closer to a conference championship, and what is almost certainly going to be a playoff appearance at this point. As far as the South goes, Garaway just doing what they got to do against Husky Valley.
Yeah.
Dominating 49-0, 35 points in the first quarter alone. 35-0. It was over before it began almost. But the big one also for me, at least, Indian Valley, kind of throwing a monkey wrench into Ridgewood's IVC plans because the Braves beat the Generals 27-13, which puts both at 2-1 in conference play and Ridgewood at 6-2. And Garaway this coming week is 3-0. And that's going to be very interesting seeing their week 10 matchup against the Generals and how that's going to play out. Yeah, Ridgewood at this point would just need to beat the Pirates in this matchup to get that title, and they need to win this week, obviously.
Right.
Win their next upcoming game to have a shot at the conference championship. Both teams will be in postseason play. A lot of teams will be. Indian Valley should be in there as well. As far as the games that we were at, we were in Yorksville on Friday night for a match between two teams that are kind of struggling below 500, but two teams that were very competitive in Sandy Valley and Claymont. The Mustangs scored a late touchdown on a long gamble pass down the right sideline. Well, the best part about it is on the broadcast, we clearly saw I wouldn't even say it was clearly, but it seemed like it was it was a little obvious. The kid's foot stepping out of bounds as he's catching himself to run to the end zone. The referees do not call it back. So Claymont takes the lead with about 2 minutes remaining. Sandy Valley, who is one of the top running backs in the conference, and Chad Davis just engineers its way down the field. Davis sprints into the end zone for what was a game go-ahead touchdown because Claymont on their next possession had no timeouts left. So it was tough for them. Not a lot of passing in that game. It was mainly a tale of two halves of Claymont's running attack doing really well at the beginning, getting up 19-0 by the second quarter, and then Sandy Valley chipped away, got a score before half, and then the second half was all Cardinals. Just an unbelievable way for Coach Brian Gamble's squad to pull out a victory. You can check our interview with Brian Gamble from the beginning of the season here on the Big Time Sports podcast show YouTube channel. Yeah, that's where you can find it. As far as where you can find the rest of this podcast, obviously Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. We publish via Anchor. That is not a sponsor. We love what they do. Video podcasts on YouTube and Spotify, not on Apple Podcasts or SoundCloud. That's audio only. You can also find us on BigTimeSportsOhio.com, and you can follow us at BTS Ohio on Twitter, also on Facebook, and at Mitch Spinell and at Mitchell Balla. Mitch, what's our fact of the day?
Your fact is that rubber bands will last much longer when they are refrigerated. It keeps the band from breaking down as fast as normal when it's just out in your room temperature.
Why is that? Because like the texture gets like hardened by the cold temperatures.
It causes the polymers to relax.
Fascinating. Well, I have to do my thing here, but I don't have the hoop right in my point. I'm just gonna try some forward spin. And thank you so much for listening or watching to the Big Time Sports Podcast Show.